very low-tech presentation because I usually just put photos and things up and images up on my presentations, and you know, it's more of a cue for myself rather than anything for you guys, so it was easier for me to just get up here and talk today. So I want to talk about the future of software testing as I see it, and that's from my observations working in the industry, talking to my peers. When I was at Ignite last year as well, I picked up a lot from this to help develop my opinion. And so today I'd like to talk to you about you know, the future and you know, as software testers, are we all doomed? Or do we have a job, and what that entails. So I'll start off by you know, what's happening now, and then the future, and then what skills I feel are required for the future. So I think that was a great presentation and really did lead into mine quite nicely. So I'm glad that we coordinated that one. So the now for me is like record and playback is dead, right? Okay, you know, QTP it doesn't do record and playback right. And none of them really work that nicely because they do end up being these. If you just hit the record and then hit the playback button, you end up with a mess full of test cases that are easily broken by developers, and that's because as testers we don't often communicate with the developers about what's happening in our world. We want to know what's happening in their world, but we never really tell them about our automation, and that's that record and playback. So you know, that's that now, and to refer back to my low-tech notes, then you know, to go on to that, what the future holds. No, I'll stay with this one actually, sorry. I should have done that presentation. So I think there's also, my observation of the industry at the moment is there's a lot of unskilled testers, and I think that's because if we look back to the way testing began, it was, you're in the call centre, we need you to come down and do some user acceptance testing, and then, oh, you did all right at that, actually we need someone here all the time, so why don't you stay here all the time? And then all of a sudden you're a tester. And I think that worked because if we go back 10, 15 years, we weren't paid very well as testers, and you know, those that have been around long enough will know, yeah, we weren't paid. There was a large disparity between testers and developers, and that's not the case anymore. So there's this greater expectation on testers that wasn't there in the past, and so there's still unskilled testers, and when I say unskilled, don't have those technical skills, probably didn't go to university, wouldn't know how to code, and you know, so I classify that as unskilled testers. So you're probably really good at domain expert, know testing really well for sure, but don't have technical skills as such. Another thing that's happening now is that it was really interesting. So did anyone go to the DevOps meetup last week? Yeah, so really encourage you to go to a DevOps meeting. That's part of the future, okay? If you go there, stuff that I've been talking about for a while and saying, hey, you know, where's our definition of done, guys? You need to get that, and we can't just be releasing software, we need to know when the right time is to. That's what they're talking about now, as if it's their idea. And you're going, no, I had this idea. I've been talking about this for the last 5 years, 10 years. And now you guys are talking about it like it's a new idea, and they are. And the thing is that they're making stuff happen as well. So that's happening right now, and if it's not in your organisation, it's going to come, because you know, there was 70 people there and very eager and a great bunch of people. So that's where, you know, what's happening right now. The future for me is proper automation, and so some of you are probably saying, I already do that, but like I take your example when you say, oh, you're using, you know, these other things, other people are using Microsoft. Think about that if you were developers and you're in this development team and you went, I use Java, everyone else uses Microsoft. you know, but I'm different. I use Java. Can you imagine the chaos that would entail if one developer wrote in Java and all the rest were using Microsoft products? It just wouldn't happen. That's our immaturity as a testing profession, is that we're quite immature there, and we're allowed to go off and do weird and wonderful things and try new things, which is great, but the future is to go in there and everyone should know what your framework is, what's our process, and we need to be more technical there and actually have some, to go to, you know, one step further, is have like that architecture of how we're going to do our automation rather than just, you know, running off and start making automation happen. I also see the, I think if you were looking at this presentation before and you didn't understand, we said, does anyone know how to, does everyone understand code and understand that? You're sitting there and looking at that and going, I didn't really understand what was there. That's a problem for the future, okay? Yeah, there was a stat that I was talking to a friend with just 2 weeks ago. Retirement age has moved from 65 to 67 now, I think. You know, if you're around the 30s, that's probably going to be close to 70 by the time you come to retirement. And when you think about when it was set at 65, is that the average male would live to 67 to 72, 75. So now we're living to our 80s. So you can't really retire at 65 and live into your 80 on the government's pension anymore, and so they've changed that. And so if some of you think about that, you've got another 30 years worth of work ahead of you, and more for some of the younger people, you know, less for some older people, but there's a lot of years left of work left, and the future's happening, the changes are happening now. Some organisations are probably already there of the future that I talk about, but if you're not, you're going to be, within the next 10 years, you're going to be in a very different world. So I think that's a world where if you are the unskilled tester that I was speaking about, you will have a difficult time to find the roles. The roles are going to decrease, okay, that are available to you. I'm not saying they're going to disappear completely, but they're going to decrease. I was looking at LinkedIn, you know, probably a month ago, a colleague in Perth said, hey, a colleague of mine in South Australia is looking for a tester. They need to know automation. No record and playback experience, only real automation. You know, he was quite strict, real automation. So, you know, that's happening right now, and so that's where that job isn't available to you if you don't know what they classify as real automation. Okay, and I also think that whilst not all of us can be, and it's not important to become a developer or a great coder, you need to be able to do more than just be a tester or that unskilled tester. And I think where some of my colleagues have gone, they've stopped being test managers, and that's the other thing. There's a dying profession of test managers. There's not as many roles out there. I think those of us that are test managers or have been test managers, you would know that there's just less roles available to us these days. But they're becoming scrum masters and product managers. You know, where Marty works, the test manager, he's been test manager for a number of years. He's now a product manager. I go over to those that know Cameron Ryanlands at Sun Super, he's no longer the test manager out there. Those things have changed, so the industry's changing right now. So leading into the skills that you need, I think it's really important that, like I said, if you couldn't read that code before, you need to learn how to read that code. You don't need to become a developer, because that's what we've got developers for, but you need to be able to communicate on that level at the very least. And there will be smarter people than yourselves, and that's what you always need, those really great automation guys that probably already exist in some of your teams, but you need to be able to talk to them on some level. That's certainly who I'm hiring now, is you don't know you haven't done any coding at all, I'm not interested. I also see that, if you don't know anything but testing, you need to learn something else to be the basics of being a BA, how to become a Scrum Master, or how else do you be involved in an Agile world? Because if we do look at that Agile world, and look, let's be honest, there's lots of places out there claiming to do Agile and not many places doing it nicely. But the places that are doing it nicely, that's where the quality is being owned by the team, not the testers anymore. And the expectation is that you won't just be a tester, that you'll be able to do everything. And that's not practical for a lot of us. I can't code, I haven't coded in a long time, that I couldn't, get in there and look at code and do something without making lots of defects. But that's not the expectation. But I'll tell you what, some of the developers are easily going back into testing. So it's important that you can do more than testing, because they can drop back and do some testing of someone else's code. So you need to be able to say, at least, can I do the BA work? Can I be the technical writer and the tester? And I think that's some of you, if you were good at writing, technical writing is a great opportunity to get into, because I tell you, at my last organisation, my technical writer, and I had the team that included technical writers and testers. My technical writer found more defects than the 3 testers that were on the team every time, because he was unchained. He didn't have to follow a process as such. He just needed to write his technical documentation, and that allowed him to go loose and be what would you call it, to go be a free tester, to be, it's not the word. Yes, that's it, thank you. So and that's the stuff, I don't know what about some of you are here, but I really love that exploratory testing, to be able to go out there and just sniff out the defects and find them. And that's where, if you can do the automation, you've got more time to then go and do that exploratory type testing. So that's where I feel that you've got to have more. Going forward, you need to be more than what you are right now. And because, as I said, you've got a long career ahead of you all. So to wrap it up, I think the now is, it's changing right now. Some organisations are more mature than others, and some, like I was talking to Alistair before we started here, a very immature organisation that he spoke about, where testers and developers are still apart and not acting together. So there's a place that's got a long way to go, but there's other organisations where, right in amongst it, the testers and developers are all working together. The testers know coded automation, not the record and playback, and developers own the quality. They don't just give that to someone else, they own the quality as well. Okay, that's happening now, and as I said, DevOps, how to look at it, it's really growing field. The future, it's more of that, it's changing, okay, and like I said, you've got a long career ahead of you. It's important that you understand that this is changing, and that unskilled tester is not going to survive into the future, or their jobs are going to be fewer and fewer as the years go by. I know myself for the last 5 years, I've really been only hiring people that have some technical skills. Not go as far as testing their coding ability, but they have to be able to do something. They have to know something about coding. They have to know some sort of scripting to be able to be effective, in my view.
We have that in our team. You have to have some sort of, if you say that you've got some training skill, you have to know syntax.
Yeah. I think it's so important, it helps you develop, it helps you communicate with the developers on a different level as well. Okay, those skills that I'm talking about, like I said, I really emphasise it's not important that you become a developer, because we don't need more developers, we need testers, and that testing is a special skill. There's that, that exploratory, having that, investigation skills, the ability to sniff out the risks and where the defects are going to be. That's a specific skill, but recognise that having that by itself is not enough anymore, and so you do need to, what else can I do? So if I can't code and I really have no idea what I'm doing when I look at that, then how do I become a BA? How do I develop that skill set? Because there is a lot of similarities between those two roles, and so that is another option for people to skill up and have more than just being a tester. And then also to be, how do you become what else can you do to be more valuable to your team? Okay, so the future is now for some of you. The future is 5 years for some of you and 10 years for others. It depends on your organisation. Some are going to move fast, some are going to move slow. There's always some government organisations that are never going to move at breakneck speeds, and so that's why I say the jobs aren't going to evaporate, but they're going to become limited. Okay, so I'll leave that with you. It's my opinion. You might disagree. I'm happy to hear your disagreements, but that's just my observations of the industry. Cheers.
Take a few questions.
Yeah, sure.
Anybody got any questions?
Yep.
So in talking about the, developers owning the code more, that testing is really going to be pushing towards automation, those sorts of things. Does it even make sense for testers to be in the space of writing automated code, or is there more value in having testers move more into exploratory testing, doing risk analysis, and essentially, I guess, like internal consulting within the team?
Yeah, look, I think that's a really important point, is that there is some areas where you're better off just handing that to the development team. And because, let's face it, that's what they do, they love it. And if they're also writing the automation, then they're going to be careful about the changes that they make to their code so it doesn't break all of their automation. But you can't, whilst that's good, authors need editors, and so there is still a world for testers, but you should be able to interrogate their tests. So you might not write them, and so I was interviewing a young fella today, and he said, I'm not a great coder, but I understand code and I can read it, and I understand what can happen in code. And so when he was doing a project, he was suggesting to some of the coders on the team, saying, well, I think you can do this. And they were like, yeah, we can actually. They were far better at it than him, so they went off and did it. But he was able to have that conversation and not get bluffed by them. So, yeah, I do think there are far better, far more qualified people than most of the testers out there, not all, that could get in there and do it if it's the right organisation. But it's really important that testers, that we still get in there and interrogate the application. Yeah, good point.
For any testers that are looking at upskilling and maybe going for programming or going for solutions?
Yeah, it's something I've been talking about. I'm conscious that we're in software education's office, so I don't want to be saying don't do stuff with them. I don't know what they do, so I'm not doing anything at the moment. It is something that I'm going to be developing some courses for my own team. I might do them publicly, but I do think that there are some basics courses out there on SQL. SQL is a great place to start. You should know it. Yep.
We do offer an SQL course for free.
Yep.
I could have put forward out the front deal, so if anybody's interested in receiving information on courses, you get your details down, we'll get in touch.
Yep. So, I think that's a great place to start. SQL, to learn that is a great place to start. And I stress start because we need to get a little bit more in depth. But look, there's so much out there that you can teach yourself, and I do always encourage people to teach themselves this sort of stuff. But it is important to do some of the more formal courses as well to get yourself that base level of knowledge, and then it's a matter of building on it.
There is a website called Coursera.
Yeah.
Program.
There's a place. Yeah, there's a place down in Melbourne that's doing online courses as well, and they had a basics in coding. I think it was like $35. I can't remember the name of the place off the top of my head. I'm sorry, but for that, an online course to use to learn the basics of coding, I think we could use so much value for like $35. The best investment that you can ever make in life is in yourself. It's not in some other company. When someone gives you a hot tip, spend $1,000 on yourself and train yourself up, and you'll be able to earn more and and stay in the industry longer. So I always encourage people to train themselves.
The best way to learn is to run.
Yeah.
It's, you don't get hung up on courses too much. There's tons of information on the web. There's tons of there's a few websites like she was talking about Ruby. So there's many websites that teach Ruby. Ruby is very easy to learn.
Yeah.
But the best way to learn is to run. So once you've got the grips of it, just pick a problem and just run.
Yeah, there's so much demand out there as well at the moment for development skills that there's a lot of opportunity to testers to move into different areas. You know, outside of the BA type stuff, there's a lot of roles that are being siloed or specialised out of testing now as well. You know, dedicated performance roles, and security testing roles. You know, the technical writing, and then it's funny, like there's a lot of companies pushing for automation, but there's a fair bit of exploratory testing coming out of it as a result. You know, when they're realising, oh, okay, we can't do everything with automation, and it's sort of it's tapering off a little bit. It's sort of my experience, but yeah, the courses are a great way to go. You know, Udemy, Codecademy, Code School, you know, tons of places that have free courses that are entry level.
Yeah, and it is, you just got to get out there and give it a go. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just going to add for any of the women that are interested, on the 24th and 25th of July is Rails Girls Brisbane. I'm not 100% sure if registrations are still open, but if you're interested in learning Ruby, it's free and there are coaches there to teach you.
Is that up in the valley?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Good. It's good. Yeah. There's a lot of free stuff out there. You just got to find it. So you know, like I said, it's worthwhile. And you've got to invest in yourself and take time out, you know, and do that.
Why is it that the only options that are discussed for testers shifting left towards development? What about the ops side of things and deployment and management of code? And would that not be better suited to testers' skill set?
Yeah, I think, it's a good point. It's funny actually, being at that DevOps meeting, what I found was there was actually a push more from the IT hardware type guys that were pushing themselves into the DevOps roles and taking on that stuff. It was, it's definitely something, you know, to get involved in, but I do think you need to have some good technical skills to fit into that DevOps space. But because you need to understand the infrastructure more than just software development. But I think it is an option there. You know, it's something we should. Good point. Yeah.
System system admin knowledge is very useful. If you look at the way applications are developing on the web, there's like a trend for microservices. So that's lots of little services in the cloud somewhere, for example. So to debug that, how much you should be networking on system administration. So this is don't just code.
Yeah, pretty good.
That's true.
Yeah.
Just one more.
Okay, I'm going to leave everyone then with a very different slant on where I think people need to be investing their money and their time and their skill set for the future. So in the latest World Quality Report, 93% of respondents said that they were doing some kind of agile projects or work, etc. And in order to be a high performer in an agile team, one of the key skills that people need to have is in the soft skills area. And soft skills is a very difficult thing to teach people because it's a lot about your inherent personality. So I can teach someone to write automated scripts, I can teach someone to do testing techniques, I can teach someone to do write a test plan or how to do estimation. But soft skills is a really hard skill to master, and that is where you want to be in an agile team. That's where I think people need to be honing their skill set.
Yes, you definitely need soft skills, but I think you've always needed them. I think your roles are still going to be limited if you don't have the technical skills to fit into that team, because you know, in that agile world where, okay, you know, the self-managed teams and everything, they're going to weed you out. You know, I think it has shown up. I've seen in a few organisations where you're turning up to the meeting every morning, and it's what did you do yesterday and what did you do today, and they're constantly not moving things. The team soon gets sick of them and moves them on. So I think it's very important that you have soft skills, but I think it's important that you all invest in soft skills right now, not just as part of an agile, because let's face it, agile's not perfect for everything, and I think if you're doing agile now, I'm sure that it's probably not perfect, because I've not seen too many places that are. So, you know, and sometimes waterfall is actually the right thing to be doing. So, yeah, it's a very good point. You know, soft skills are so important.
Awesome. Thanks, Darren.
Thanks.